One of my favorite memories while working at Camp Jekyll happened during a beach ecology class. I had a group of fourth graders that were extremely excited to be at the beach at Camp Jekyll, and so that's always a great thing for instructors. Students are very excited. They usually tend to ask a lot of questions, which gets them actively involved in the class, and this was by far one of the most engaged groups that I had during my time at Camp Jekyll. A piece of the story from beach ecology class is chatting about sand dunes. We go over what a sand dune is, how they are formed, and why are they important for the environment. Then we have students build their own sand dunes, and so we try to see who can build the most realistic dune, and this activity reinforces to the students the process of how sand dunes are formed. So to continue on with my story, I'm going to have to take a break here and give you guys all a quick lesson on the formation of sand dunes. So enjoy. I always like to start off the lesson with the word deposition. And so what is deposition? Well, it's the process of something getting dropped off, kind of like going to the bank to deposit money. You're dropping money off at the bank. Except when talking about a barrier island, we're talking about a whole lot of other things that are being deposited or dropped off. So deposition is a key word that's taking place throughout the whole process of sand dune formation. So remember the word deposition. So a sand dune starts with a rack line. And so every single day, our beach sees roughly 2 high tides and 2 low tides. And every time the tide is falling, which means it's going from high to low tide, it leaves behind or deposits a line of debris. And so this line of debris is known as a rack line. And so our rack lines usually consist of dead Spartina grass, which comes from the marsh, but it could also include seashells, jellyfish, seaweed, and many other things that could potentially wash up on the beach. So over time, you get lots of layers of rack line up and down the beach that just continuously build up on each other. And so that is the first step of sand dune forming. It's that foundation. The foundation is the rack line. And so the next step, which is kind of going on all the time, is the movement of sand. And so how does sand move? Anybody know? If you said wind and water, you are correct. And so we have lots of wind coming from the northeast that creates a current just offshore, and all of that wind and water is moving from the north to the south. And so it's pushing a whole bunch of sand and debris onto the island and depositing it onto the beach. And so over time, the sand that's getting moved gets caught in the existing rack lines, and little teeny tiny mounds begin to form. And those are like your little itty bitty sand dunes that are just starting to take place, but they're not fully a sand dune quite yet. And so this process goes on for a while. You have lots of rack lines that continuously get washed up. Sometimes they get pulled back out and then wash up again. And you also have lots of sand that's getting moved around as well. And so before you know it, those little itty bitty mounds that you had get really big. And so once they get big enough, eventually the third and final step of a sand dune forming is going to occur. And that third step is the presence of plants. So seeds will get blown in the wind and land or be deposited on these new sand dunes. And so the most common plant that you would see are sea oats. And actually I have some sea oats right behind me right now. These are some examples of sand dunes. And so they play a super important role for sand dunes. And that is because the roots of the sea oats hold the sand together. So they're all over the place. It's a super intricate root system, and they provide lots of surface area for sand to basically stick to or to hold on to. And so these roots play a super important role of just holding everything together. And so now those are the 3 steps of building a sand dune. So it's a lot of information. So I briefly mentioned this to the class, like, man, wouldn't it be great to have a way of remembering this by like maybe singing a song or maybe, singing and dancing. And so this group was super into it. And while they were building their sand dunes, they helped me create a song with some actions to remember how a sand dune is formed. So lucky for all of you, I actually have some friends with me that are actually going to help me sing this song. So I'm going to pass it on over to them. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3.
Deposition, 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 rap position, rap position, rap position, rap position, wind and water, wind and water, rap position, rap position, rap position, wind and water, 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 deposition, 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 deposition.
There you have it, everyone. That is the sand dune song, all about how sand dunes are forming. And so that process is going on all the time. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. That was by far one of my favorite memories at Camp Jekyll.